And I believe that the reason we turned to ads, and it was a massive mind shift for me because my default's always been, right, ads is the solution, right? If you're a hammer, everything's a nail. And it's kind of like ads are the problem and the solution. Ads are part of the problem. But what we began to realize this year was just how much you could move the needle by focusing on your funnels, focusing on all of the things that are within your control.
All right, welcome to the VidTao Podcast today. This is VidTao Co-Founder Ian Nagy, and today we have a very special guest, Mr. Martyn Cook. Martyn is the founder of Noobru.com and host of Smarter Destiny Podcast. So Noobru is an amazing brand, a nutrition brand focusing on brain performance, and they have a fantastic product and they're growing like crazy. And today on the podcast, Martyn is going to talk about a few of the biggest tactics and strategies he's leveraged outside of ads. We're talking about everything after the first click. So landing pages, emails, back end, etc. He's going to talk about how he's tweaked all these levers to lead to incremental improvements that have grown his business, tripled his business twice in 2022, despite all the ups and downs of the ad space, rising CPMs, compliance issues, et cetera, that we all deal with. Martyn's going to walk through some very specific tactics that you can take and apply right now in your business, whether you're in e-commerce, software, information, whatever the case may be. I think you're going to learn a ton from this conversation with Martyn. So let's get into it. This podcast is brought to you by VidTao.com. VidTao is our free YouTube ad library and spy tool, research tool. It's VidTao.com. At VidTao, we have close to 1 million unlisted YouTube video ads that you can search, find, discover how they're doing on a day-by-day basis. So you can really see what ads your competitors are running, see ads in different markets that you can model to create new winning ads for yourself, and a whole lot more. It's all there inside VidTao.com. Plus, we have a premium edition. So the database is free to access, but then we also have a premium edition where you have full unlimited access to the database. And inside there, we also provide training. So we also run an agency called Inceptly. That's INCEPTLY, Inceptly.com, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. It's a video traffic agency, and we've worked with everyone from brands like Descript.com, Huel, to real scrappy direct response info products, supplements, health, beauty, e-commerce, you name it, we've done it, and love sharing what we've learned. Every week we drop new training in there, everything from YouTube ad media buying to running e-commerce creatives on YouTube to hardcore tracking and attribution tutorials to really level up your data science game for advertising, and everything in between. Right now, as we speak, we're working on a training regarding YouTube Shorts. Hopefully we'll be live by the time you hear this. On and on and on. This is our passion, is video advertising, and we want to share it with you inside of VidTao Premium. And actually right now, for a limited time, you can get access to VidTao Premium for a very special price. So if you go to VidTao.com, sign up for free, check out the database, upgrade to premium for this very special price, so you get access to all of the database and all the trainings. And also wanted to add that at Inceptly, we do free brainstorm calls with clients like you. So if you ever want to get help or ask questions about your YouTube ads, your video traffic on other platforms, we're available to chat. Just go to inceptly.com/call, CALL, and set up a time to chat. It's free and would love to speak with you. Our team's waiting to speak with you. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Mr. Martyn Cook, welcome to the podcast, VidTao Podcast. Great to have you.
Great to be here. And awesome. It's nice to give something back to you and your community that's just provided so much value, particularly this year, man, hanging out in Barcelona in the penthouse that you rented, and your awesome event in Oxford, meeting all the amazing people that you've cultivated. It's nice to be here and to give some value back to you and your community.
Awesome, Martyn. Appreciate it. Yeah, love having you both spots, and looking forward to the next time we can connect in person. And it's always awesome to chat with you because you have such a really interesting background, and love to just give us a quick breakdown on what's the fast 5 years look like for you in terms of business specifically?
So the last 5 years. Okay. So I think the last five, I think we're always learning, and I'm learning every single day. But I think a lot of growth and learning has come in the last 5 years. I think 5 years, while we were at 2022, that brings us to sort of 2016, 2017. And 2016, I launched an e-commerce brand. I think it was like my third, or actually it might be more than that. It might be like depending on what you classify as a brand, right? By today's standards, I'd probably say third or fourth. I think many people would be like, hey, you've launched a bunch of things that has a logo. So actually it's like your 14th brand. I just have higher standards for brand, I guess. But this particular brand was in 2016, September 2016, I think it was. And we launched it. And we went from naught, so day one, naught, to $1 million revenue in the first 90 days. Wow. First 90 days of launching. And it was really, actually, it was from like day 20 to day 90. We actually did the million because it took us a little bit. And it blew up all of our kind of expectations. It broke all of our supply chain. It not destroyed our suppliers, but our suppliers like had to like hustle and grow very, very quickly. And ultimately resulted in about $250,000 worth of refunds, right? And this is the bit that like the gurus don't tell you, is the sort of downside of scaling. But it taught me a lot about like growing really fast and how important all of the stuff that's not ads is. And it's kind of, I'd say, fast forwarding to today, and I will jump about on that timeline. This year, a lot of our growth is in 2022. A lot of our growth has come from focusing on everything that isn't ads, right? Yes, ads are great, but I think so many people go, I want more money. I need more revenue. I need more profit. Ads, ads, ads. And I just think so much growth comes from outside the ads. We can touch on that later on. That brand, I wrapped up that brand. I sold that brand in 2018. And, it was great. It was a nice exit. It was nice to move on and what have you. And 2018 was the birth of my first child. And so I did a bit of an analysis. I had a software company doing really well at that time and had this e-commerce brand. And like 80% of my money was coming from the software. 20% of my money was coming from the e-commerce brand. But 80% of my time was going on the e-commerce brand and 20% of my time was going on the software brand. So I was like, wow, okay. So, most of the money's coming from the thing I'm spending least of the time on. Great. The e-commerce thing's the thing I'm going to exit. That frees up some time with the family, but it also frees up some time, as long as it takes, to really think about what is the next brand. In my case, I knew it was going to be selling some kind of physical thing online. And how can this be launched in a way that it improves the world, that I'm passionate about it, the shiny object syndrome that I suffer with, just like every other entrepreneur, will never be strong enough to take me away from this amazing, cool thing that I'm going to create, that fuses my passions, that the avatars that we sell to, at least some of the avatars that we sell to I would put myself in those categories, and is innovative, original, unique, all of these things. There was so many boxes this had to tick. But I was like, I've kind of got a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I wanted to plan out this to make sure that this one is the amazing thing. So that was Noobru. Mm-hmm. New Chew, it actually started out. It was going to be a gummy initially, but that's Noobru. That was the first thing on my floor to ceiling whiteboard. The first word happened in 2018, maybe December 2017 or something, was when the first word went up on that whiteboard. And over the next 12 to 18 months, more and more words went on and it got fleshed out. And then people got speaking to people, board of advisors forming, suppliers being created, prototypes being created, charities being auditioned. All of this stuff began to happen, ready for our launch in 2020, January 2020, when we launched it 3 months before lockdown. Good timing. So really, that's been my last 5 years. I've got my finger in tons of pies. We've had an amazing mastermind that probably did 3 or 4 events in that time. Amazing events all around the world. I'm truly grateful for. The software company obviously has done really well, and all the other things. But in terms of e-commerce and the focus, I guess, of the discussion today, I'd say that's the not so short story of the last 5 years.
Amazing. That's awesome. And so just so everyone knows, Noobru, what is Noobru exactly? New Chew
So
slash
Noobru,
Yeah.
Noobru, no, it's definitely not New Chew. New Chew's nothing to do with it. So when we realized that the minimum order quantity for gummies was 2 metric tons, which if you want to visualize a pile of gummies that weighs 2 metric tons, it's like an articulated lorry or truck. That's the pile of gummies.
That's insane.
We're like, no, fuck that. Anyway, so no, it's not New Chew. So Noobru, I've got some here. Basically, it's the little eco-friendly packets here of powder. It's actually a blend of active ingredients that are all scientifically studied and proven to have positive benefits on your brain. That means that they're a nootropic, blended in a unique way with flavor and with smell. So the experience element to create a product that when mixed with water is a delicious drink, which I drink all day long. I'm drinking it now.
Nice.
A delicious drink, a delicious nootropic drink. But it comes from powder. You mix it with water, you take it, it's fantastic. And that is what Noobru is in a nutshell. We have now, I think, 4 different products. So we have a sleep-based one that helps you get into the state of lucid dreaming, which is an amazing dream state where you're like in control of the dream. You can choose what you want to do. We have an immunity-supporting nootropic product. And we have a really, really strong one that a lot of our sort of athletes and actors and very sort of successful, prominent customers prefer and lean in towards. So we've got those 4 products at the moment, but that's Noobru, and that's what it does.
Very cool. So that's crazy. So when you initially thought of going into Noochew, so I'll call Noobru, first iteration. So where did you start, and why did you start there in terms of, for instance, I noticed these are packages, right? And there are other supplements or consumable products where you have maybe a scoop. I'm just curious what was the journey like going from first launch of Noobru to where you are now, where you have these packets, and just in terms of pricing, what are some big wins and some learnings you had on that journey in terms of product packaging and all that?
Big, broad, open question there. Well, so I'll touch on the scoop thing first. So even back in 2018, it was very clear where the world was going towards eco-friendly and just sustainability and things like that. And one of the things that was written on the whiteboard was this overarching sort of rule that was, we cannot make the world worse. In fact, we have to make the world better as a result of us being in it and being successful in it. Okay, so a cigarette company would be a great example. The more successful you are as a cigarette company, the more people get cancer. Fucking great. As a CEO of those companies, I don't know how well I would sleep personally. So Noobru needed to be the opposite of that, right? The more successful we are, the better the lives of our customers, the better the earth is, through my Disney lenses here, the earth is as a result. That meant that we couldn't use plastic, right? We cannot have our packets or scoops made out of plastic, things like that. And so we made it very, very hard for ourselves. We now needed to find suppliers that could print on and fill paper, sort of foil-lined paper sachets for us rather than plastic. And there was hundreds of suppliers that would be willing to fill plastic stuff for us. Take your average sort of coffee sachet that you might get when you're like staying in a hotel or something that's plastic. Whereas there's not many that can do the paper and foil, but that was okay. We were willing to do the right thing. If the right thing differed from the easy thing, we were willing to do the right thing time and time again, and we have done throughout. So that's why we didn't do the plastic thing. But there's been a ton of learnings. There's been a ton of failings. There's been a ton of everything, like evolution. As I said, in 2022, the biggest learning for us has been how much of a needle mover the things that are not ads are in a business.
Yeah, totally. Let's
angle that.
Yeah, totally. That's an easy one to grab for. Let's hear it. So walk us through that. So 2022, biggest learnings in terms of everything that's not ads. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. It sounds like it's been a big, big needle mover for you. So yeah.
So let's paint the picture for the people listening and watching to this in the future, right? 2050, right? So right now in 2022, there's a lot of advertisers, a lot of brands, a lot of businesses who are hurting. It's post iOS 14. We're in a recession, or are we not in a recession? I don't really know at the moment. I don't know where the official line happens, but certainly people are paying attention to the money they're spending. Facebook's hurting, and they're beginning to focus back on their broken advertising platform, and a lot of brands are really, really struggling and reducing their ad spend. In this same year, we've tripled our revenue twice.
Wow!
And we've done that through not focusing on ads. Obviously, our ads need to be in a good place, but by focusing on everything else. And I believe that the reason we turned to ads, and it was a massive mind shift for me, because my default's always been, right, ads is the solution, right? If you're a hammer, everything's a nail, and it's kind of like, right, ads are the solution, ads are the problem and the solution. Ads are part of the problem. But what we began to realize this year was just how much you could move the needle by focusing on your funnels, focusing on all of the things that are within your control. So as soon as the customer has clicked off that ad or clicked that ad, and now they're into your playground, your sandbox, all of the stuff there, and then all of the stuff that is around the product that you're giving to them. So we've got a calculator, and actually a buddy of mine, Darren, and I, we started teaching this stuff, right? We're definitely far from gurus. It was more out of a frustration of just the sort of current environment where people follow the gurus, or the gurus are trying to sell courses on ads, and therefore the theory and the feeling is everything's ads. Ads is the problem and the solution, so everyone turns to ads. Yep. And so we sort of created this thing where it's like, hey, do you know what? Actually, look at the other stuff, right? And we're going to tell you how to look at the other stuff. So you can go to bulletproofscale.com to see that. We've been putting some of our best work out for like $5.
Nice,
right? Nice. Which is very much a theme. My book is available online for free, right? It's very much a theme. It's information. It should be free or close to free. So we started focusing on all of the stuff that isn't ads. You can, and I've been teaching this since I published the book. I think I published the book around 2018 time or something like that. It's called 1% Secret. And the focus on there is the compounding effect of doing lots of things better. So if you improve the performance of your ad, the performance of your, the conversion rate, your AOV, your repeat customer base, if you improve each one of those by 1%, the uplift to your revenue is 400%.
Wow.
But only one of those steps was your ads. 3 or 4 of those steps was not ads. So let's start looking at those, right? So we started paying attention to how many people were going through our advertorial. We started paying more attention to how many people were converting. We started paying attention to how high we could push that average order value. We created a complete custom checkout so that we had more control over those stages. And we built the custom checkout in a way that it accepts other customers, like other brands. It's completely bespoke to the brand that it's on, but it's not like it's a Noobru thing. And we started paying attention to that. Then we started looking at, when people say, say you work with an agency, one of the first questions is what's your required CPA, or what's your required ROAS? And that's a really difficult question, because the answer is that changes the more revenue that you're generating. And the reason it changes is because, say you have every month, say 20 grand operating costs. If you're making 100 grand in the month, your operating costs are 20% of your revenue. If you make $1 million, it's 2% of your revenue. And so that affects how much you can afford to acquire a customer, because if, say, for example, you're doing that 100 grand and 20 grand is your operating cost, so that's 20%. and say that the cost of your good, like the cost of goods sold, so everything from your raw ingredients to the processing cost, to the postage cost, to the packaging, to the whatever, say that comes to 30%, right? To make numbers easy, and you're doing 100 grand revenue, you've got 50 grand left, right? Yep. You've already spent 50 grand of that 100 grand on your operating costs and your COGS. You've got 50 grand left that you can spend on ads. So your ROAS at that level has to be 2 or better. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you lose money, right? Because you're doubling your money, right? So if you spend 50 grand on ads at a 2 ROAS, that's 100 grand. Sorry, it has to be 1 to break even. If you want to make money, it needs to be better than 1, I think, in that situation.
Right.
Whatever, I've got a calculator for it, right?
Yeah.
But if now your revenue's at 500 grand, your cost of goods sold is still 30%, right? Mm-hmm. So it's still, that's increased, but your operation cost is still just that 20 grand. That hasn't increased, which means that you can afford to spend more for a customer. So we began to realize that actually it's really important for us to kind of project what we're going to make in the month. We've got a calculator that does that. It's looking at what you've made per day and it sort of projects it forward and so on, so that you can also project what your break-even ROAS is for that month at that revenue level. And so that was really, really important, because what we began to realize is you can spend more to acquire a customer if you can bring down the cost of your goods sold.
Nice.
Okay. So that's a way you can scale.
Yeah.
Right. You can scale by not looking at ads, but by looking at your product cost. You can scale by not looking at ads, but looking at how much money you can extract on average out of each customer with the AOV. You can spend more on ads by working on your autoresponders and getting more customers back. You can improve your ads by working on conversion rate, right? And advertorials, I'm a big believer in advertorials, an advocate of advertorials, particularly for Facebook, because Facebook knows the difference between a product page and an advertorial. And most people, particularly when they're on mobile, which most people are on Facebook, they are in the Facebook browser. And so the Facebook browser on their phone can capture a lot of information about what they're doing when they're browsing. So if they're in the Facebook browser and they're on your product page, and on average, people spend, say, 20 seconds on your product page before bouncing, Facebook will assign should we call it an engagement score or valuability score to that. And they will charge, to a certain degree, they'll charge you accordingly. Because the Facebook utopia is that the ads are just as engaging and valuable as the cat videos that people are looking at, right? Whereas if in that Facebook browser, they've opened up your advertorial and they've spent a minute and a half going through it, reading it, consuming it, and then clicking through to the product page, all of the signals that's giving to Facebook is that that's actually quite an engaging page, and they will reward you accordingly with your ads. And so if you're spending $2 CPC, for example, to get people onto your product page, but you're spending 50 cents CPC to get them to your advertorial, and you lose half of them on your advertorial, right? Only half of them go through. The cost to get someone to your product page via that advertorial is 50 cents, but you're only getting half of them. So it's $1, right? It's $1 to get them to the product page, but it was $2 to drive them direct to the product page.
Got it.
And there's an argument to say that the 50% that have dropped off on the advertorial probably weren't going to buy anyway. The buyers were probably in the 50% that you kept, right?
Yeah.
And so now you have again improved your ads by not doing anything on the ad side. And these examples sort of come again and again and again and again. But ultimately, you have 3 levers. Any business, it's so boring, but any business, you can the things that truly will move the needle is how much, how often, and what was the third one? I've got it in my notes. Oh my goodness, it's so, like I said, it's so boring. But
Great stuff.
Dear me, I should just have it right on ready to go. But I've got it written down, so I don't need to. It's how much, how often, and how many.
Got it.
So how much they spend, how often they come back, and how often they buy and how many they buy, how much they buy, how many they buy. I don't know. There's 3 levers, but everything else falls underneath that. I think we can figure that one out. We can put it in the show notes. The Martyn fuck up will just caveat that one. Everything goes back to that, and you've just got to know your numbers, and you've got to put down your existing numbers and then forecast. Okay, if I improve this one by 10%. this stage of the funnel by 10%, or this element that affects my ads by 10%. Now what do things look like? Am I profitable? What if I move this one as well? Now what does it look like? Am I profitable? Right? If you can push up, if you can get an extra 10% of the people through that advertorial now, and also increase the amount of money you're making from your customer by, $10.
Yeah.
And then get an extra 10% of those people to come back and reorder within 3 months.
Yeah.
Those 10% lifts are significant in most businesses, and you can look at what it is in your business by running the numbers. And so now, come 2022, whereas I think in the past when people have reached out to me, I'm always someone that likes to help and happy to help.
Mm-hmm.
When people have come out to me, and brand owners, maybe for the mastermind, or just they've heard the podcast or read the book or whatever, and they come out and they say like, I need help with my business in some way. I think prior to 2022, we'd have got there in the end, but we'd have gone down like a load of different avenues and we'd have gone a load of things. Whereas now it's very, very clear to me, the first step of any business, it's like, well, what are your numbers? Mm-hmm. Right? What are your numbers? Let's compare those numbers to the kind of industry standards, because in the e-commerce world, there are basically industry standards. Your ads, the click-through CPC should be in this range. The conversion should be in this range. The AOV should be in this range. You just map it all out and go, well, there's your weak point. Let's really focus in this week for a week or for a month even. Let's drill down on this area of your funnel. It might be the conversion rate. It might be the average order value. It might be your cost of goods sold. It might be that you're just paying too much, like your product cost is just too high and you need that to be a lower percent. So you might have to increase your prices or find a way to lower your COGS down. But it's all scientific because you can see the existing numbers and you can see what happens if you improve any or all of them. And that's how you improve your ads without touching your ads.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. And so everything you're just describing here, this is all something that you walk through in this calculator, correct? So
a calculator is just something that we throw in. Sorry, I'm just chomping.
No, get that Noobru. Get that Noobru.
Yeah. So we've thrown in a number of calculators to make it easy at bulletproofscale.com. Just to be able to punch in the numbers. They're the calculators that basically I created, or my partner Darren created in his business, and we've used internally, and then we've just sort of like like a shitty Google sheet. Yeah. But then we've just made it a little bit nicer looking, and added an explainer. But the functionality is the same. There's different calculators, but the calculator that I use most often when I'm hitting my next goal, and our mutual friend Peter Kell, I got this from him, which is when goal setting, whatever your current goal is, say it's like a certain amount of revenue in a day. When you hit that revenue in a day, the next goal is double.
Oh wow!
It's not less than double because that's not ambitious enough. It's not more than double because that's just feels too much.
Yep.
But say you've done 20K revenue in your day and that's your goal. Once you hit that, 40K is your next goal, right?
Wow.
And so when we're looking at, how can we achieve this next goal? We'll often put our numbers into this calculator and we'll say, right, so what CPCs are we getting? What's our cost per product page visitor? Because sometimes it comes through an advertorial, sometimes it might come through a VSL, sometimes a quiz, whatever. So cost of product page visitor, conversion rate, average order value, lifetime value, if you want to get really fancy. And then we play with that. We go, right, now in this current spectrum, like what seems to be the weak one out of these? Which is the one that we think we could double the performance? Because if you're getting 50 cent CPCs, you can't double that. It's very hard for you to chop that down to 25 cent CPCs on the ads. But if your conversion rate's 2% or like 1 and a bit percent, right? So between 1 and 2 people out of every 100 that come to your site purchase, that's a big area for opportunity. I feel like you could push that up. You could get that up to 2% by playing with different checkout templates, playing with different wording, playing with your prices, playing with the trust seals, playing with the urgency seals, playing with, right? There's things you could do to get that conversion rate up. And so maybe focus there, because actually if you wanted to double your revenue, that's one of your points in your funnel that looks like it's, could be doubled, could be improved that much. And that's really what we're like looking at constantly is these numbers in our funnel and just sort of going back at right to left typically, and then left to right, right to left. And that's the incredibly boring way of improving your funnels. And of course, your ads need to be kept in maintenance, but rather than pushing them to their absolute limits, where they suddenly they just go off, right? They become unprofitable and sucky and volatile. Pull them back a little bit to sort of 80% of the level. And John Belcher is a massive advocate of this. And I know he talked about this at your event, and it was just a phenomenal light bulb moment for most of the audience, I think, where it's like, well, pull it back to 80%. And then you don't have to like spend so much time and energy trying to extract that last 20% of performance. You can kind of just let it run. And then that gives you some space and time to focus on really the 80% of your business, which is everything that's not ads.
That makes so much sense. That's fantastic. It's so interesting how I think Will's talk too is about that, about something a bit more holistic at the event, which was basically like, where are these levers that you're not even playing with that it could have a massive lift for your business, where you're just over focusing on something else. So what you're describing is an amazing framework for really taking a look and finding those and seeing where the opportunities are. And I wanted to actually ask you about something specific, because I think it's something that you do really well, and which was advertorials. I know we're getting more tactical now. We're talking about these things, but I think that, a lot of folks are just driving to the product page and they don't really know where to start when it comes to advertorials. And I'm just curious about what your journey has been in terms of really leveraging that as an element in the funnel.
So I love advertorials, and I think their place is with products which are slightly harder to demonstrate. So I don't know if I would use an advertorial if I could demonstrate in an ad something physical. So a mosquito zapper, right? I think in an ad you could say, this is what it looks like. This is what happens. There's a mosquito going in it. This is the result. There's a pile of dead mosquitoes next to it. Here's where you can use it. It's in the campsite. It's at home. It's in a whatever. You travel with it on vacation. You can kind of get the person to the point where they're like, okay, I get exactly what this is. I'm going to click because I want to know how much it costs, because that's really like who you ship it to and that you're legit. I just want to make sure that like none of my sort of bullshit detectors go off when I'm on your product page, but ultimately I just need to know how much it costs and I'll buy, right? You could do that from an ad, and then I would probably be investing in video and creative and so on for these easy to demonstrate products. But there's a lot of products where actually, showing them doesn't really do them justice. And we as humans, we learn through stories. And so advertorials, VSLs, which is just the video version really of an advertorial in many ways, very similar formulas. Advertorials are a great way to tell a story about how someone who is similar to the avatar, like similar to the demographic of the people that you're trying to reach with your advertising, so with your marketing, the advertorial is an opportunity to tell a story about how this similar person, their experience with your product, their life before your product, and ideally how much it sucked and why, right? And all your research has led to this. And by the way, I mean all of this. I might be a bit flippant in my words, but I mean this really, really authentically. You're helping people. If your product is shit, don't fucking sell it. Yeah. And I'm really stressed that. If you're scamming people for a living, fuck off. Go under a rock. Okay. But if your product's great, then you owe it to yourself to get it out into the hands of as many people as possible. And so you owe it to yourself also to find out why. And so if you've helped enough customers and you've had feedback and you've changed their lives, those customers, I'm telling you this because we do it at Noobru, those customers are queuing up ready to get on a Zoom call with you and tell you about their experience with your product. Okay. We have a VIP group where customers that have ordered more than 3 or 4 times get invited in, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of people in this group. I can do a post as the founder and be like, hey, anybody willing to get on a Zoom call with me to tell me about their experiences with Noobru? I'll give you some free Noobru if you do. filled up comments, yes, me, I will. Yeah, man, you changed my life, right? Get onto a Zoom call, ask them the questions, delve into why, like what their life was like before, what the pain they were experiencing before, why that pain affected their life before, how they discovered your product, things that almost stopped them from buying the product, how things are after the product, why is that important, and what they would say to to people who are on the fence about trying the product. Do it on a video. Now you've got, and delve into the whys, right? When they're telling you stuff, if it feels a bit surface level, like I feel so much better, delve into that, right? You're like, why? What's better mean? Why is better? Delve into that. We want to know the emotion behind the why, behind the why, behind the why. You should be able to say like, so what, like 3 times. They go, I feel better. So what? Well, so better. It means I get out of bed better. Okay, so what? Well, it means I'm ready to attack my day. So what? Well, it means I go to the gym and I feel motivated. Okay, why is that important? Well, because then I feel, I'm losing weight. I feel sharper. And okay. And why is that important? Well, I'm going out, I'm dating, I'm finding people. Delve into that emotion, right? When you're asking the questions. So you've got all this information. Now the advertorial lays that out. How so-and-so person with this, something a little bit like, weird and wonderful curiosity leading, this weird powder, change their life in some way, right? That's a terrible headline. I'm not teaching you how to write a headline in this. And then the advertorial presents this story, the story of this person and the journey that they've gone through. And that's the content of the advertorial, right? And then the call to action is where they can go to get more. So that's the content. In terms of the style is, you would find that from your customer interviews as well. By the way, 30-minute Zoom or an hour-long Zoom with a customer, oh my God, the ROI on that is infinity. If you're not doing that, do that. That's all I can say is just do that. We also, the questions I actually ask our customers, we also include that just as like a little thing as well. It really sounds like I'm selling Bulletproof Scale now. I'm really not. It's $5. I don't need the $5. I do like helping people though. And I like helping people en masse.
Yeah.
I like saying a thing once and it helps thousands of people rather than like 1,000 conversations. So the style of the advertorial is important because what a 20-something-year-old, the style of the advertorial I'd put in front of them is different to what I'd put in front of a 6-year-old. Mm-hmm. And what I'd put in front of a 60-year-old sort of, I don't know, depending on how they believe and the purchase and the purchase price of the product and so on would dictate how I lay it out. But here's what I would do. I want to understand what are the customers that we're trying to reach, the prospects we're trying to reach, I should say. What are they consuming online right now? What are the magazines and articles and newspapers, like the online newspapers and so on? What is it that they're consuming right now? Mm-hmm. And then I'd be making my advertorial, I'd styling my advertorial so it looks like that, right? So the font sizes are similar to the font sizes, the colors are similar to the colors. I'd be trying to make it so it's really intuitive and natural and similar to what they're consuming online already. So that's the style of the advertorial. We've gone over the content of the advertorial. If you're not a copywriter, get one, find one, work with one. But really that copywriter, what will make their life better and give them a chance to actually flex is that research stage. It's those customer interviews in particular. If you haven't got any customers to interview, then you need to find products that exist in the market already. Mm-hmm. And you need to look at what people are liking and not liking about that. So Amazon reviews are a great place to go where you can find out what they're really not liking, those 1 stars, and what they're really liking, the 5 stars. And you can sort of begin to delve into those and begin to sort of fill in the gaps. You can jump into like Reddit, subreddits. You can jump into forums. You can send out your product to a bunch of people and get some candid feedback to get to that stage. It's an evolution. You need to, you would be evolving, and you need to measure your advertorials. You need to measure how many people come in mm-hmm. and how many people leave via the link you want them to leave by, right? Via your mm-hmm. the link to your product page. That's your what we call an advertorial click-through rate. It's probably got different terms. That's what we call it internally. And you want to get that kind of as high as possible with the caveat that if you just had a page where literally all that was on the page was a button that said next on it, you're going to get like a very high advertorial click-through rate. So the caveat is you kind of don't want to show any links to the next thing until quite far down the page. So if your click-through rate's high and they have to have consumed at least half of the page before they've even seen the first link, there's a good sign. That's a really good sign. And so just because we talked about like industry standard numbers and so on, all of our advertorials perform north of 45%. They're very long form advertorials, and that's kind of where we strive to get to. But one of the big changes we made in 2022 was that focusing in on the advertorials. And before we made any changes, they were working at about 35 to 37%. So that jump, that extra a number of people that was coming to the product page, that improved our ads without touching the ads.
30% plus, right?
How we do advertorials. I don't pretend to be an expert. I would reach out to like James Van Elswick. I think he's phenomenal at advertorials.
For sure.
And I would do my due diligence. I would be I'd be finding all the sites that have like native ads running on them, and I'd be clicking on those ads and seeing what I land on, and track, and keeping logs of this, like screenshots and URLs and stuff, and just saving it in a file. I've got a growing Notion sort of folder with all these different funnels that I sort of stumble across. Sometimes you find yourself in masterminds where they'll share swipe files and things like that. I really like the fresh stuff. I like the stuff that's working now, rather than the historical stuff. But the words and the copy and the headline formulas and all of that you can study stuff from hundreds of years ago, because that hasn't, like, how, like, human psychology and what we respond to hasn't changed that much. If it's powerful then, it's powerful now,
That's fantastic. I mean, you basically it's funny how you said, I'm not an expert. You just rattled off a mini masterclass on researching and building amazing advertorials.
The experts are all your friends. Your friends are the experts. The ones, the A team that you rounded up for your Oxford event, they're the experts. They're beyond experts. It's crazy to be able to like just eat dinner with them, like, shoulder to shoulder. It was just so cool.
Oh man, and you were sharing a bunch of amazing knowledge as well. I mean, that's wild right there. How you boosted from 35% to 45% plus your click-through rate on those advertorials this year as ad costs have been rising, et cetera. That's massive. I mean, that's game changing right there. And then one thing I know that we talked about recently that I thought was super interesting, just because these kind of tactics are so cool, is how you're approaching email to really post-purchase get that lifetime value up. I'd love it if you just had any notes that are top of mind for you on what's been working to do that in 2022.
So we work with an amazing agency called AmBam, and we worked with them since 2020. A lot of our suppliers actually we've worked with since the beginning, but we've also gone through dozens of agencies that didn't work out. But AmBam's brilliant. I've known Michelle, the owner, for a long time. She's been on my podcast. She shares openly how to improve your emails, content for emails and stuff. We've worked with them for a long time. And that's important. Like, we have copyright. We actually have 2 in-house copywriters at the moment, and so writing emails isn't a challenge. Like, we can do that, but email marketing, that's only half of the piece. And the other piece, which I'm not interested in but know is important, is like your sending reputation. It's nurturing your list. It's knowing your numbers. It's about eking out those tiny improvements in like subject line tests and stuff. I'm just too lazy for that myself. And so we work with an agency because every month the revenue from email is like 100 times what we're paying the agency, like, plus. So it doesn't matter that in terms of our overarching operating costs, it doesn't matter. And what they make sure is that our sending reputation and all of that stuff, right, the spam scores and the Gmail inboxing and all this stuff, which I'm like, I know it's important, but I don't want to know about it, is going in the right direction. And it meant that we were getting, like, currently we get like 40% open rate sending to like anyone that's engaged in our emails in the last 6 to 12 months, we're getting
Wow.
like 40% open rates, right? So it's like pretty much our whole list, 40% open rates. We're like, wow, if anything's a signal that our audience is getting value and could be emailed more, that is. But we were already emailing sort of 2 to 3 times a week from our branded, so from Noobru. So we're like, well, how can we email our customer list more without it feeling like we're emailing more? And so what we started doing was emailing from new personas. So it's important. So a different person. So rather than Noobru, it's Martyn at Noobru, right? The founder. The emails are different. They're less formal, less branded. It's more sort of text based, and it's more of like an insight into like behind the scenes, things I'm doing. Like actually, when we hung out in Barcelona, I actually fired off an email that came from me, or I fired off at least bullet points from my copywriter, and I was talking about how I'd just been on a plane. I found a stat that like the average plane table that comes down from the seat in front, that was because there was only EasyJet flights between UK and thingy. Normally there isn't a thing that comes down to the front. It's normally on the side. You get what I'm saying. The average table that comes down is something like 10 to 20 times dirtier than your toilet seat or something.
Wow.
And so I thought that's a really interesting stat. And I'd certainly been consuming Noobru Shield, which is our immunity support product, and I consume that daily. Anything I can do to like bolster my immune system and my defenses, because it's expensive to get ill. It's miserable and horrible, but it's also really expensive, right? To miss days of top level proactive work, productive work. So I sent an email. It's like, hey, I've just traveled. I'm in Spain. I'm writing this email from a beautiful cafe, out in the sun. It's 20 degrees centigrade for our American friends, and I've been drinking Noobru Shield a lot more than even normal lately, because it's sort of occurred to me just how many people I'm interacting with in the airports and in the queues on the escalators waiting for the plane. Then on the plane, sort of, breathing in that processed air like everybody else, touching the tray table that's 20 times. The email begins to write itself, right? And this is to our avatars of travelers, for Noobru Shield would be who I'm really talking to. Anyone that travels. And that's from me. So it's a different style to the, whoa, labor sale now on, or, 50% off or whatever. It's different to those. And in terms of the person's inbox, it's a different person sending. It doesn't matter that it's both Noobru. From their point of view, it's 2 different people. And so if they're now receiving 2 or 3 emails from me, the total we're sending is now 4 to 6 a week with those 2 senders. But from their point of view, it doesn't feel like Noobru's sending twice as often. And if you jump into that and it's new, you have to warm up to it, right? If you've got a big email list and then you suddenly start whatever, you kind of have to introduce yourself and get into it and warm up. But we've recently introduced a third as well, following the same procedure. And so email sending is still, it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still amazing. And it's something that needs to be nurtured, which is why we have the agency making sure that it's not like, if we're pushing too hard, we pull back, and if our reputation's going bad, we fix it, and all of that stuff. The warning signs are picked up early. But once you've got that locked in, if you've got a great product and you're sending valuable content, and valuable content, just to be really clear, what I mean by that, in the scope of emails, is it should be either educational, funny, inspiring, or it's something of value. Okay, but humor could be of value. Wisdom can be value. Science can be valuable. Right, news is another one. Right, there's loads of just email-based sort of news. Like a lot of people are like consuming their news from like Morning Brew or something. Like that's all they need rather than checking the news sites, right? Because you're aggregating all of the stuff into one portal. So you need to have value in that email, and there's consistency, and you're nurturing, it's another relationship and so on. So there's work involved. It's not just spam a third time or something, but that's a great way to the big lever of how often, right? So your lifetime value, how often are people coming to your site and buying? Email is the thing for that. Your autoresponders on the email is the thing for cart abandons and repeat purchases as well. But that's auto emails. But on the campaign sending side, the ones that you're sending each week, that's one of the big levers you have for the how often pillar.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I remember you saying the more you send, the more you make, and this is a way to send more. So,
unless you don't, and then stop doing it, and figure out what went wrong.
Yeah, might as well. I think there are probably very few people who are hitting that limit right now. Most people are probably thinking, "Yeah, I could send more good emails."
Yeah, unless you've got a shitty product.
There you go.
That's why that's so important, right? That's why
Step
I took
one.
2 years of like drawing it up on a whiteboard, figuring out how can we create a product that ticks all of these boxes. Like in my experience, no one likes taking pills. The best you'll get when you ask people about taking pills is they tolerate it. The worst you'll see people that take pills and they're like slapping their throat and whatever, right? No one enjoys the experience of taking pills. And if someone sees you taking pills, they assume you're sick. They don't think you're improving yourself, right? So I take a fistful of supplements every day. A lot of my supplements I still haven't got as like a Noobru product or in powder form. So I'm still taking supplements. But before Noobru, I would also be taking nootropics, like in pill form. That sucked. And also pills, you only absorb, those studies have shown that you only absorb about half of a typical pill. The ones in the capsules that need to break down before you can get other stuff inside. Unless the stuff inside is liquid, they're different. But the ones where it's powder inside of a capsule, your body can't start absorbing it until the outer shell is broken down. That means it's much lower in your digestive tract, and you only absorb about 50%.
Wow.
Whereas liquid, you absorb more like 90-something%, and it starts in your tongue, right? You absorb the stuff under your tongue. So part of Noobru, we were like, okay, well, let's make a product that one is twice as good because it absorbs twice as well, is a pleasure to consume. Like people might stop drinking their sodas and their Cokes and their Pepsis and whatever for Noobru. Well, wow, that's another tick in the box, right? Because they're cutting out these sugary drinks for ours, which doesn't have any sugar in it, tastes amazing. All of this stuff is important because email, if you're trying to make money from email, you need to have a product that was amazing and inspired and delighted and made the customer feel amazing when they ordered it and when they received it. Those are two separate points in time.
Right.
And because people will forget what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. If you've got that right, and again, that's another way to improve your funnel, right? Without touching your ads. Okay, improve that, because then customers will come back and seek you out, make it easier for them to find you again, all of that stuff. If you've got that nailed, then your emails will be better, because your emails then really it's just a reminder for them to either consume your product, right? Because they might have had a couple of weeks, they've gone on vacation and whatever, they come back and they're no longer, they've broken the habits that they had before. They're not going to the gym every Tuesdays. They're not going. So it could just be that your email is to encourage them or to remind them to consume again, or your email is a reminder for them to buy again. You don't need to do big sales. You don't need to do whatever tactic. It's just a reminder. It's like, hey, we're still here. Do you need any more? And if your product's that good, they'll just keep coming back and buying it, because you're giving value to them. And in our case, giving value to the world. And one of the things that we're so outrageously proud of is our mission that we had from the very first day we launched. We did our research and we were looking at big world problems. So we're not talking about problems that our product solves directly. We're looking at big world problems, and we came across the problem of malnutrition. It affects 2 billion people. Wow. Now, I think in the last week they've just clocked in. I think the 8 billionth person was just born. I think I heard. So a quarter of the population is malnourished. These are people that the thing like diarrhea. We take a pill for that. It's life-threatening for them, and it's the reason for that is in the West. If you buy flour, if you even like raw flour, or you buy cereals or whatever, it's all fortified. If you look at the box, it's like fortified with B vitamins, iodine, and all this. I don't know why I do an American accent for that. I just feel like it's how we do appropriate. Right. So we take it for granted. We have the basic micronutrients because it's in our raw food.
Yep.
Now, out in these 2 billion people, where they're milling kind of the flour in their village and so on, they're not introducing these micronutrients, which means they don't have the nutrition they need. Yep. And so it's a big problem. And so one of the things that was on the whiteboard was this charitable mission. Like, how can we enrich the lives of people that don't even buy Noobru as part of Noobru? Fast forward, interviewing different charities, looking at charities to find the ones that actually the majority of the money that they receive actually goes to the cause. The cause is a good cause. The cause is a world, massive problem in the world that they're trying to solve, right? We, from the very get-go, decided that we would fortify the meals of at least one malnourished child for at least a year with every single purchase.
Wow.
And so our mission was to fortify 1 billion meals. That is our mission, to fortify 1 billion meals for malnourished children by 2025. So it's a very clear, defined, goal.
Yep.
And that's baked in to our business model. We speak in terms of meals fortified internally rather than revenue and profit and all that stuff. And we do it publicly. So on all of our socials, our cover photo shows the number of meals fortified. We need to update those, but for this month, but we have now fortified more than 70 million meals for malnourished children.
It's fantastic.
And that is a huge, huge thing, that on the dark, cold, self-doubting days that we all have as entrepreneurs and founders, where we're like, who the fuck am I to run a business? Who the fuck am I to give advice? You're a fraud, you're a fight. The voices, right? That I've done 170 episodes on our podcast with founders, and spoken with hundreds more. It's every single entrepreneur from Elon Musk downwards suffers from this from time to time. But when you've got a thing where you're like, do you know what? If I died tomorrow, if I went bankrupt tomorrow, if whatever, I've fortified 70 million meals for malnourished children, right? That can't be taken away from you. And for those of you in the audience listening and going, it sure sounds like giving away some of my profit margin. What we found by doing this, by accident, we found, because we would do this either way, is that one, our conversion rate is better.
Right.
Because actually a growing segment of the buying population wants to not just buy the thing that you're selling, they also want the good that comes from buying the thing you're selling. It's like, it's a t-shirt, but what else? Are you going to plant a tree as well? They kind of expect that. At the very least, they like that. Right. They like that they don't have to do any more, but more good is happening. Customers are more forgiving. Because they're like, you might have fucked up my order. It might have taken a little bit longer than expected. But I can see that you're doing good. Like, you're a brand that wants to try and do good.
Right.
It's harder to shout at you, right? Which we're really grateful for, because of course we make mistakes. Yeah. In terms of just getting up every day and grinding. And what am I doing this for? Because Maslow's hierarchy of needs, once you get past a certain amount of money, once you've got the first 50 grand that you make in a year is really important for your shelter, you're providing your family or whatever. The next 50 grand, it provides some toys and provides some whatever and some slightly finer life kind of thing. But after that, next 50 grand and the next 100 grand and the next 100 grand, it's diminishing returns. Your life doesn't really benefit that much. And so if you're just pursuing money, there's going to be a point where you're like, this isn't motivating. This isn't whatever. I'm rich, but I'm miserable. And that's why on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, humans start then looking at, I need to have purpose. I need to have mission. I need to give back and legacy and all of these things. And so as you're successful in your brand, like the charitable component also is a ace up your sleeve as well, just from, what am I doing this for? And so introducing this charitable component, to summarize, more customers out of 100 will buy, conversion rate goes up.
Yep.
less customers will get angry with you,
Yep.
or at least they'll be more forgiving. So like your refund rates go down, your the negative reviews on Trustpilot and Amazon or whatever, they won't happen as frequently, and you will have more energy and motivation, and your soul will feel more whole on a daily basis.
Amazing.
Pretty cool.
It's like
Pretty cool, right?
Win. Triple, is that the triple bottom line, something like that?
Win.
Yeah. I love it. Martyn, man, you dropped so much knowledge, and it's amazing to see how you baked in this greater good in your business. It's really inspiring. I think a lot of people like myself, I'm already thinking, wow, how can we do something like that? I mean, that's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, you dropped a lot of knowledge around just how to survive and thrive in this day of massively fluctuating cost of attention across all platforms. Just focusing on the fundamentals, and that's just so refreshing and such a great reminder. So I appreciate you sharing all this. I know you are involved in you're leading so many amazing projects. And can you just please, so people can find out all the amazing stuff you're doing, please, let's just start at the top. List it off for us.
Well, like where they can find me?
Yeah. So
what do you mean?
companies, you got Noobru, you got your mastermind, you got, obviously all your social stuff. Yeah.
So things come to the forefront and take up more of my attention, depending on the time of year or what have you. And I section up my calendar according to different tasks and optimize that according to sort of headspace that is required for each project and business, and have learned to hand off and hire and give responsibility to other people so I don't go crazy. Right now, Noobru is my that's the number one. That's my baby. That's the thing. We've got 1 billion meals to fortify by 2025, right? We need to we need to hustle, right? Bulletproofscale.com, as I said, is a budding project with my buddy Darren, who's an incredibly successful founder. He's the CMO at a skincare company that's doing about $500,000 and rising a month. And me and him, we just got frustrated with this commentary around focus on your ads are the solution. Now buy this agency that will cost $6,000 a month to make you ads. And I'll tell you what, our best performing ads, in fact, I'd say all of our ads that are running at a ROAS north of 2.5 at the moment were shot on my phone.
Wow.
Or on my a member of my team's phone, to be more accurate. They are basic ads, like a simple 3-second, 5-second video that catches attention. It's not elaborative, beautiful, whatever. It's just not. Anyway, so all of this attention on ads. And by the way, if you're like pushing your ads to the edge and you're trying to eke out these things, you kind of have to do that. If you're building your house on the shaky foundations of any ad network that's crumbling or splitting at the seams due to iOS 14, iOS 15, Google changes, the CEO focusing on a fucking metaverse rather than the advertising thing that built his empire. Yeah, it's gonna be a struggle, right?
Yeah.
And you need to find all these agencies and find all the things you can do. But if you instead just sort of put that on a kind of like holding pattern, kind of good autopilot, and instead focus on the rest of your funnels and improve the rest of your stuff so that you can spend more to acquire the customer profitably, and then you're taking even less strain on the ads, or you can just up your budget a little bit on the ads because you've now made it easier to do so. That's the focus. So Noobru is definitely my baby. Bulletproofscale.com is a thing with that I've launched with Darren to get this information out en masse, because it's very inefficient to have 1,000 conversations. That's why I love doing these kind of podcast interviews. It's one to many. Your VidTao email list must be fucking ginormous by now, Ian, as well. So I'm hoping you distribute it.
Yes.
This speaking out. And by the way, that's a testament to how good VidTao is. So it should be very, very clear, right? You wouldn't have a big engaged audience if you didn't. And so this one-to-many efficient way of spreading the word, like, hey, there's a different way of doing it. And then, we wrap that up in a way where it's like, do you know what? It's $5. And that's the principle. It's like, do you know what? Come in, try our stuff. If you want to then talk further, we can talk further. We haven't got anything to sell you. I've already told you I'm not doing consulting. That's 1 to 1,000, 1,000 times. I'm not doing that. I can't do that. Noobru is my focus. But all of this information exists. And if, by the way, we can inspire you at the same time, as at the same time as helping you build and improve your business, we can also inspire you to just change a little bit of your business so that it's doing good in the world. Wow. Mm-hmm. And so that brings me on to Smarter Destiny, which is a thing that I've been doing since about 2015, with the same sort of mission. So the mission of Smarter Destiny is building an army of enlightened entrepreneurs. And enlightened entrepreneurs, one of the definitions of entrepreneurs is taking whatever it is you've built, your influence, your wealth, your connection, your whatever, mm-hmm. and leveraging that to make you understanding your responsibility to leverage that to make the world a little bit better. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying don't buy the Lambo, buy the Lambo, whatever, if you want the Lambo, buy the Lambo, but also figure out how you can do something in your business, even if it's just a charitable element. You can do something in your business that improves the world, and you can do things in your business that minimizes your footprint, right? Sure. Like the with the eco-friendly, with the sustainability, with the reducing the plastic, all of that stuff, right? So that's being an enlightened entrepreneur. And I've done that with the Smarter Destiny podcast. So Smarter Destiny is that brand. I've done that with the Smart Destiny podcast now for, I think we launched that in 2019 or something. We've done 170 episodes with amazing founders, all with the minimum criteria is a business that's doing 7 figures of revenue, but most of our guests are way higher than that. Mm-hmm. And, delving into it. So that's what we're doing in the podcast, and with my book as well, 1% Secret, which you can just Google online. That's free as well. I just asked you to cover the cost of shipping, and in most cases, it doesn't actually cover the cost of shipping. We haven't increased the price, even though shipping prices have gone up, right? I don't care, right? It's value that can go out into the world, and we've sold thousands and thousands. We've given away thousands and thousands of these, and enough people have come back to me and offered me equity to help to consult in their business, or to speak from their stage, or to whatever. That it's paid for itself 100 times over. I can continue giving this away for free. It's absolutely fine, right? It's a great way to get the value out, to keep building that army of enlightened entrepreneurs. We've got a software business, which at the moment, none of our products are public facing, with the exception of our custom checkout. But really the criteria of that custom checkout is you need to be doing like 300 grand a month before it would make sense for us to do the custom install on your server to white glove service and have it ready for you in your store and your headless e-commerce journey. But if you are doing that, it's going to increase your AOV by at least 20%. It's going to increase your conversion rate significantly. It's going to cut your processing fees with like Stripe or whoever you're with dramatically. So it pays for itself like many, many, many times over. We're really selective about like the people. We just want to make sure we can help you before we like go through all the efforts of installing it and getting it set up and so on your server. But it's a game changer when it is. So that's on the software side of things. Then we have our mastermind. Used to be the Cartel's mastermind, and you can type that into YouTube and see like some of our sexy events that we've done in the past. Nice. It's now called Digital Founders Network. We rebranded a little bit. You can reach if that's something of interest. There it's all 7-figure revenue e-commerce brand founders. With a disdain for drop shipping and a desire to make the world better and to build real brands that you can exit for like huge multiples, and have that fuck you money and retire into the sunset if that's what you want to do. That's what that's all about. It's a very active Slack group on the daily basis. We're all communicating in there and tackling the problems that every entrepreneur has in and outside of business, even being an entrepreneur dad, right? There's strategies involved in that makes that easier. That's what we do there. And then we put on these luxury events as well. We don't have any kind of application form. It grows through a word of mouth. But if that's something you're interested in, you can find me on one of my socials. It's Martyn with a Y, Cook without an E. I'm sure you can find me somewhere. Or email me, martyn@smarterdestiny.com. We can have that conversation. There's plenty of other stuff, frankly. There's always budding things and pies with fingers in it. But I think those are the big ones and more than enough to keep me out of trouble.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Martyn. Super impressive, man. Love it. Love it. We got to do another podcast on how do you manage yourself? You know, how you're managing your energy. Obviously, you got Noobru in your corner, fueling the fire. I know
That helps, right?
I know there are a lot of frameworks and strategies that you employ to kind of keep everything organized and make sure that you're staying aligned with your vision and keep executing. So love to explore that with you another time. But man, what a great set of tactics you laid out for everybody today. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. And yeah, everyone listening, reach out to Martyn. He just puts out fantastic stuff across the board, podcasts, books, everything else. Do yourself a favor. But Martyn, thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ian. It's been a pleasure to speak one to many and to hopefully, if we've helped just one person from this show, it's been worthwhile, right? So it's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, if I can answer any questions, any follow-up questions, any whatevers, reach out to me, Martyn@SmartDestiny, or find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. I'm there and would love to speak to you.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of VidTao Podcast. Again, my name is Ian Nagy, co-founder of VidTao, and really appreciate you having a listen. And it means a lot. So if you have any feedback, go ahead and email us at info@vidtao.com. Love to hear your ideas for future shows, future guests. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Love to chat. Also, just as a reminder, this show has been sponsored by VidTao, which is our free YouTube ad library, vidtao.com. Again, you can go to VidTao and look up over 1 million ads at this point inside of VidTao. And they're all unlisted YouTube ads. You can see what your competitors are running, track the results on a day-by-day basis, find new ads inside of our YouTube ad library, VidTao. And we also have a premium edition of VidTao. So the library is free to access, but for full unlimited access to the library, we have a premium edition of VidTao. And we also have training from our sustainably.com agency, which is our sister company to VidTao, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. We provide training on media buying, creatives, tracking, copywriting, everything in between. It's all there inside of VidTao Premium. And right now we're running a very special deal on VidTao Premium. And you can go claim that right now at vidtao.com. When you sign up for free, you'll see the offer to join Premium and go there and check that out. And last thing, we also do free brainstorm calls with our agency Inceptly. Go to inceptly.com/call. And we love brainstorming with you on your video advertising and just marketing in general. Love to chat. So inceptly.com/call, CALL. Would love to speak with you. So thanks again for joining us and looking forward to the next show. In the meantime, have a great week.